welcome to Tell Me Your Story. This is the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series. Dennis Henson is my co-host. I will put it that way, Dennis. Thank you for being with us again as we continue our series on the Dreamer. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Richard. I really enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to continuing this story.
And we're going to do that right now by continuing with the Dreamer.
News butcher for the Santa Fe Railroad. On his own for the first time, things didn't go that well. Roy helped Walt secure a position as a news butcher for the Santa Fe Railroad and loaned him the required $15 bond. For the next 2 months, Walt enjoyed the romance of traveling along sprawling lines to cities in a half-dozen states. His blue serge uniform, brass buttons, cap, and badge made him feel important. As trains rolled into each station, he stood beside the conductor, offering to sell passengers magazines, peanuts, candy, apples, and soft drinks. And though Walt loved working around trains, he couldn't resist eating his products. And when he failed to collect the soft drink bottles after one trip, he lost all the money for their deposits. Soon he was broke and was forced to rejoin his parents. While living in the Windy City and working at his father's jelly factory, he decided that art would be his future. Needless to say, Elias was not impressed with that decision. Nevertheless, he arranged for him to take classes at the Chicago Academy of Fine Arts. High school in World War I. At 16, Walt entered McKinley High, where he became the school photographer and produced drawings for the newspaper. But World War I was raging, and when Roy enlisted in the Navy, Walt dropped out of school to follow suit. Unfortunately, he was rejected for being underage. Yet when one of his friends learned that the Canadian Army was accepting younger volunteers, the two boys planned to sneak across the border to enlist. However, when his friend's mother found his packed suitcase, she called Walt's mother and ended their plans. Still determined, his friend learned that the American Ambulance Corps would accept volunteers as young as 17. So, Walt, still 16, took a black pen and altered the birth year on his notarized passport application, making him appear 17. He then enlisted in the Red Cross Ambulance Corps on September 16, 1918. While his parents were unhappy about him going overseas, they reluctantly agreed. A very close call. Simultaneously, the horrific Spanish flu epidemic was raging. Nearly one-half of the deaths it caused were among young adults. Hospitals were overwhelmed and had neither the staff nor the medicine to treat the onslaught of sick patients. More U.S. soldiers were dying from Spanish flu than being killed in battle. When the epidemic hit Chicago, thousands of young adults were stricken and many died. Walt and 2 others in his barracks became so sick they were released to be hospitalized. When the ambulance arrived, the driver asked, "Kid, do you live in Chicago?" "Yes, I do." "Then let us take you home. If we take you to the hospital, you won't come out alive." So the driver took him to his parents' home and delivered him to his visibly shaken family on a stretcher. Flora put her son in bed and brought in a local doctor who treated him with heavy doses of quinine. Then she nursed him through weeks of high fever and delirium, wrapping him in poultices and treating him with a mother's love and more quinine. Disney remained delirious for more than a week, then slowly regained his strength. Would Walt have survived had the ambulance not taken him home? There's no way to know for sure, but as the driver predicted, the 2 boys admitted to the hospital died a few days later. When Disney attempted to return to his company, he found they'd sailed without him. By the time he reconnected with his unit, the war was over. Yet drivers were still needed to help evacuate troops, so Walt was stationed in Paris on November 11, 1918, just days after the armistice. While in France, Disney earned money by drawing cartoons for soldiers to send home to their loved ones. He also used his skills to paint animal characters on his truck. On a larger scale, the military newspaper Stars and Stripes used some of his drawings in their publications. Driving his ambulance throughout Europe for the next 12 months gave Walt a broader world perspective. Back in Kansas City. Returning to the States in 1919, Walt turned down an excellent position at the Chicago Jelly Factory and moved to Kansas City. There, hoping to pursue an art career, he took a job at the Pessman Rubin Commercial Art Studio. The position paid $50 a month, but Walt was laid off after only a few weeks for lack of creativity. But that episode wasn't a total loss. While at Pessman Rubin, he met and befriended a fellow artist, Ub Iwerks. Iwerks Disney commercial artists. Both now jobless in 1921, Ub and Walt formed Iwerks Disney Commercial Artists. And though the two were talented at drawing ads and cartoon panels, their selling skills were non-existent. Consequently, a few weeks later, that project also failed. Nevertheless, their next move would not only reset the course of their lives, but also spark the creation of an entirely new industry. Meanwhile, at the Jelly Factory, things were not panning out, so Elias, Flora, and Ruth returned to Kansas City. And for the first time in a long time, Walt enjoyed having his family close again. The Kansas City Slide Company and Animation. When Disney learned of a position at the Kansas City Slide Company producing cartoons, he submitted his application and was hired. The company was so impressed with Walt's work that they asked him if he knew of others with similar skills. And when Walt told them of his friend Ub, he was also hired. Disney was so intrigued by the Slide Company's technique of bringing characters to life that he vowed to improve his animating skills. So, visiting the public library, he pored over Edward Muybridge's Human Images in Motion and other books on animation. Using the information he gleaned from these books, Walt created the illusion of movement on multiple images. Then, after convincing his boss to lend him an old camera, Disney converted his brother's garage into a makeshift studio. There he spent every spare minute creating animated shorts. Walt's devotion to hard work and education didn't go unnoticed by Roy, who later stated, "Long after everyone was in bed, Walt was out there still puttering away, working away, experimenting, trying this and that." Laugh-O-Grams. While working at the Slide Company, Walt attempted to expand his customer base. His first short cartoons were sold to a small Kansas City theater chain, Newman Theaters. And though his costs were more than his pay, Disney gained something better than profits: education and the exhilaration of being a local celebrity. Newman commissioned Walt to create 12 cartoons, this time for a profit. So he set up a production company called Laugh-O-Grams Studios. Working at the Slide Company during the day and producing Laugh-O-Grams at night, Disney eventually earned enough to buy a camera and rent an office. Realizing that producing animated films was not a one-man operation, he hired local art students and co-workers as animators. While at Laugh-O-Gram, Walt started to dream of becoming someone important in the movie industry. Good times. Things started looking up in 1922 when Laugh-O-Gram Studio signed a distribution contract for 6 animated shorts with Pictorial Clubs of Tennessee. 6 cartoon shorts for Pictorial Clubs: 1. The Four Musicians of Bremen; 2. Little Red Riding Hood; 3. Goldilocks and the Three Bears; 4. Cinderella; 5. Puss in Boots; and 6. Jack and the Beanstalk. Pictorial Clubs agreed to pay Laugh-O-Gram $100 up front and $11,000 once the shorts were completed. Walt had the ammunition to persuade investors to purchase stock in his studio with his current customers and this new contract. He raised $15,000 of badly needed capital. Brimming with success, Disney bought new equipment, hired Ub, and brought in 5 additional animators. Laugh-O-Gram's future looked bright. For the first time, Walt had money to spend. Suddenly, he could wear nice clothes, watch plays, enjoy good meals, and have dates or go out with friends. Walt's favorite pastime was movies, where he was treated to a newsreel, a cartoon, a short, and a full-length feature. Except for an enthusiastic pianist, these features were silent. He also frequented Electric Park, where he took his dates to the dance pavilion and enjoyed the rides with his friends and fellow artists. Note: during one visit to Electric Park, Disney is rumored to have told Rudolph Ising, "Someday I will own one of these," referring to the park. Laugh-O-Gram Studio was buzzing and flush with people. His studio churned out 11 Newman films, numerous local advertisements, and the Pictorial Club's shorts. Walt hadn't felt this good since he left Marceline, savoring the activity and seeing only smooth sailing ahead. A huge disappointment. Unfortunately, his euphoria wouldn't last. Roy contracted tuberculosis, and in an attempt to save his life, the Navy placed him in a TB sanatorium in Los Angeles. Then Elias, Flora, and Ruth moved to Portland. So except for his staff, Walt was all alone, and Disney received the devastating news that Pictorial Clubs had declared bankruptcy, and though they had received all of the Laugh-O-Gram shorts, they would not be paying their $11,000. If that wasn't bad enough, when Pictorial Club's assets, including the shorts, were sold to a New York company, that company assumed no responsibility for that debt. As you can imagine, Laugh-O-Gram stock took a colossal hit. Soon Walt's employees were working without pay. And though they loved the work, and probably would like to have stayed, one by one they took other jobs that included paychecks.
And I know that you and I, Dennis, probably have experienced something along those lines somewhere along the way, and we'll talk about that and other things regarding the dreamer Walt Disney here on the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan along with Dennis Henson, and we just listened to the next installment of the story of Walt Disney, the dreamer. What really intrigues me a lot of times are names of things, and the Laugh-O-Gram. What a great name chosen there, and the question is often asked, what's in a name? Well, sometimes everything is in a name, you know.
That's true. If it wasn't for Laugh-O-Grams, all of those cartoons that we watched when we were children probably wouldn't have existed. Tweety, Porky Pig, Sylvester, I mean, all of the cartoons that you can name when you were a little child, the people who created those worked for Walt Disney in not St. Louis, but Kansas City in Laugh-O-Grams. He got them started, and then they moved to Hollywood and started their own cartoon production studios.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing what came out of that little business, and it would probably have thrived had the company that promised them $11,000 hadn't gone bankrupt. $11,000 back in the early 20s or the 1919s and 20s would be $1 million today.
Mm.
So that was a big hit. And he'd sold stock and he bought equipment and he had a bustling studio with all of these people working for him. And then everything just dried up overnight. Zip, nothing. And the animators, even though they wanted to stay, they weren't getting paid any money. So they had to make a living and they had to leave him. It was a sad time, which is how this story got in the book. I was watching a documentary probably 10, 12 years ago, and it was about Walt Disney, and it showed his bustling studio in Kansas City, and then how everybody disappeared and how he was sitting there by himself. And I thought, oh, that's just really interesting. And I tried for years to find it, and I never could find it again. So I had to do all the research. I mean, I had to literally go in and look in books and, find articles and do research in order to recreate this. But it does make an interesting part of the story.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And this is the sequence of events sometimes that happens with all of us. You have the ups and you have the downs. Hopefully, you have more ups than downs, but that's just sort of a given in this world. That's just the way things function. I'll be hard pressed to believe that an individual who decides to cloister themselves in some monastery somewhere and just pray and meditate doesn't have the same kinds of ups and downs. But then he's all by himself and so forth, as opposed to all of us who are out here trying to do our thing, trying to live our lives and maybe find our life's purpose, make the goals that we want to make them come true and so forth. And that's again, it's just it's to me, it's as natural as breathing, which may seem like a strange comparison. I still love the mathematical equation I heard not long ago that when from the time that a life comes into this world until the time that that life leaves this world, speaking of breathing, you have exactly the same number of inhales as exhales because you come into this world inhaling and you leave the world exhaling.
Wow.
So the ups and downs, you'd like to have more, you'd like to have an odd number of ups versus downs, that kind of thing. But you know what? I think it's even more important, Dennis, is that we find our happiness. We find our, shall we say, our contentment, no matter what happens. And it doesn't mean that we don't care. It just means that we recognize these are the cycles of life, if I can put it in that simplistic context.
One of the most unlucky people that ever lived in the United States is Abraham Lincoln.
Hmm.
I mean, it seems like everything he did kind of turned against him. His marriage was really, really not good. His
Hmm.
health was terrible. He had his childhood, his father kind of sold him as a slave. He really, really had a difficult time. And one of the quotes in the book by Abraham Lincoln is, "A fella's about as happy as he makes up his mind to be."
Here,
Now,
here.
this is from one of the most unlucky people, and even the end of his life, he was murdered.
Hmm.
So, but he still found a way to be happy in spite of it, and I think that's admirable.
Well, there are times when we get those intuitive promptings, if you will, those messages from within. And I'm really listening these days. We got a lot going on in our lives today. I mean, myself and my wife, we got a lot going on, and I'd like to take some of those out and say, okay, we'll deal with that, in a few years. I can't do that. It doesn't work that way. So that's kind of what I'm kind of taking that on. It's like, all right, in spite of, or maybe even because of all of this stuff, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all the people I have around us. I'm grateful for the experience that I'm gaining through these events, these different things that are happening, and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, I can either choose to get depressed and negative and pessimistic, like a lot of people around me sometimes will get when they hear the story. And I now do my best to kind of, oh, I don't know, keep the stories to myself a little bit more. Um, but doggone it, as much as I talk about some of the things that we need, the challenges that we face in our lives, this is still a beautiful place. I mean, I'm living, as many, many people refer to it, I'm living in paradise, you know? And yet I have all these other things going on and I'm living in paradise. So I think that it's important for us all to think about that. And it isn't up to someone else to make you happy. Now there's a phrase, you make me feel, and then they throw in whatever the feeling is. And
Mhm.
I'm going, good or bad, if you want to categorize it that way. No, they didn't make you feel that way. You chose it, which ties into my book, Choices 5 Steps for Life. You choose how you're going to feel. You choose the things that you think about. Now, I recognize too that, there are surveys or there are studies that, the thoughts that we have, we have, I don't know, 10,000 or whatever it is a day. But we can choose to dwell on those thoughts that are not really productive, or pick up a copy of Real Impact Daily Inspiration and read something positive, and that may help. I shouldn't say that because I know, Dennis, you're going to correct me on that one. It will help shift your mindset, right?
It absolutely will. If you read something positive every day that leads you toward your goal, you're going to have better days. I mean, you you can't be positive and negative at the same time. So
Mm,
putting something positive in your mind every day is like planting a seed, and they'll grow and you'll prosper because of it.
yeah. We encourage people to do just that. We encourage you to stay with us as we continue talking about the dreamer. And his name is Walt Disney, and his story is in the book Real Impact Daily Inspiration. And we encourage you to stay with us here on Tell Me Your Story. These stories, Dennis, are fascinating. Each one has sometimes has the same message, but at the same time, it has a whole bunch of messages woven in there. And I think one of my favorite words to describe some of the messages in many, many, many of these stories is the individual's resilience. You can use tenacity, adaptation, adaptiveness, I guess you might say. And Walt is a prime example of that as well, isn't he?
He sure is. He got knocked down a lot of times. We hadn't really got to the part. Well, we got to one part where the company went bankrupt and he
Hmm.
was supposed to get $11,000, which was more closer in today's money to 1 million, and he didn't get it. That's just the beginning. Things like that happened to him over and over and over. And he just kind of brushed them off and just got up and dusted off his pants and went on. And it makes an intriguing story.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. We hope that you will continue with us here on the Daily Inspiration Series, Real Impact. And you can get yourself a copy by going to realimpactbook.com. You have the opportunity of taking advantage of getting a free ebook copy. If you have unlimited Kindle, you already have access to that free copy. If you would like to get a hardcover or paperback version, you can do that through the website. You can purchase a copy of the book. And if you are so inclined to look at all of the pages on the realimpactbook.com site, unlike yours truly, who only looked at one page, I still chuckle about that. You have a chance to win yourself a free Audible version of the Real Impact Daily Inspiration series, which is, of course, what we're listening to here on this particular installment of Tell Me Your Story. And it's very exciting to be able to hear this. I know that we've talked before about the narrator and the choosing of the gentleman, and how great that was to find this gentleman, and he's going to be there and available in due time for audibles of other books that Dennis has done. Dennis, let's talk a little bit because it's been a while since we brought this up. Your beginnings in all of this, as far as, I mean, there's a section in your book that contains, ladies and gentlemen, 50 years of collected quotes. And I'm venturing, Dennis, that you weren't thinking about Real Impact Daily Inspiration when you started collecting quotes.
That's true. When I started in business, my mentor, Jack McConico, was vice president of the company that I went to work for. And he kind of took me under his wing. He gave me some books, and the books were so motivational and so inspiring that I thought, I've got to have more. It was like a drug. I was
Hmm.
just so excited about them. I thought, well, I need more. So I started looking for books, and I would ask people, and they would give me a list, and I would read 5 or 6 or 7 books. And out of that 7 or 10 books, I might come up with one that gave me that feeling. So I had met Jim Rohn early in my career, and he said, write everything down. You don't ever know when you might need it again. So I started collecting those super books. And I joined a cassette tape club where they would send you 2 cassettes, motivational cassettes, and you send them back and they'd send you 2 more. Well, that wasn't fast enough for me, so I got a machine that did a duplication. And so the day I got the cassettes, I duplicated them and sent them back. And so I would just every couple of days I would be getting 2 and 2 and 2. And before long, I had a library of cassettes. I had a large territory. I was driving, and I would listen to those. And when I would hear a poem or a quote or a story, I would pull my car over to the side of the road, get out my journal, and make a note so that I could come back to those. And so I started that habit in 1975. And in 2018, I was on the podcast, and the podcaster said, "Dennis, why are your students so successful?" I said, "Well, I haven't changed their habits. They form great habits. They'll be successful." He said, "What's the number one habit?" I said, "Form the habit of reading something positive every day that moves you toward your goal." So after that podcast, I thought, that was the right answer. Wouldn't it be wonderful if there was some kind of a tool to help people form that habit? And then it hit me. For 50 years, I've been collecting all of these things, these books, stories, quotes, and poems. I could compile those into a book, and then people could form the habit of reading every day, regardless of their time. If they have 5 minutes to read a poem, if they have 2 or 3 seconds right before they go to bed, they can read a quote. And if they have an hour, hour and a half at the airport, they can take one of the accompanying books and just read that book. So there's no excuse. I've given you the book. It's free. And you can take it and form that habit, and I will have helped to change your life for the positive. So I didn't write the book to make $1 million. I wrote it to help 1 million people. And like Zig Ziglar said, if you can help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. So I sincerely believe that, and I hope everybody will take advantage of it and become better for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you on that one any more than I do. And it's really something too when I think about the volumes of money. Now, I did this just the other day. I went to my social security page, and there's a tab there that gives you how much you've earned since you've been paying into Social Security, the FICA, right?
Yes.
And then this was just a real thumbnail mathematical addition. And I'm 65. And according to Social Security, I have earned roughly $250,000. And that's in probably 50 to 55 years. $250,000. Now, on the one hand, I've got nothing to show for. I don't have any of that $250,000 because it came in and it went out. Which, when we talk about those natural laws that you have written a book about, that's part of the natural process. Stuff flows in and flows out, and it needs to keep flowing. Now, there's nothing wrong with saving, okay, but that's the natural process. It's the same thing with water. It's the same thing with air. We breathe it in. Now, granted, we breathe out CO2 or carbon dioxide, but still, the process is there. Flows in, flows out, flows in, flows out. And then I thought, well, okay, maybe I don't have, on one hand, I don't have anything of that, okay? But what I do have is intangible. I have the relationships. Of course, I have the memories, because I know that my first wife and I, we traveled a number of times to San Diego, went to SeaWorld, stayed at a nice place, and this and that and the other. My second wife, my present wife and I, we've been to Ireland twice. We've done this, we've done that. And we've got all of that connection and all of those memories and the people that we met and and I got to tell you, all of that is priceless. Not even close to the 250 million that Social Security says I've earned in 55 years. And I say 55 because I started delivering newspapers around the age of 10. So I think that's something for people to take a look at as well. It's like, okay, where's your value? And I know you talk about that too, in several of your books, and also in the context of this series of stories and Real Impact. And I think it's a point that maybe I might have you elaborate on a little bit from your perspective.
I call it taking the G vitamin. You know, if you take the G vitamin, your blood pressure is lower, your enthusiasm is higher, people like you better, you're going to live longer, you're going to feel better, and it's free. The G vitamin is free, and the G vitamin is gratitude. So if every day you'll just when you're taking your pills or when you get up and you're first looking at the day, you know, be grateful that you're there. When I do a speech, many times I'll start the speech out talking about when I was a kid, there was a TV show called The Millionaire. And he went around, John Bears for Tifton had $1 billion and he was giving away millions. And Michael Anthony was going around and giving people $1 million, but it had a string attached. And the string was they couldn't tell anybody. They couldn't tell anybody they had the money or where they got the money, and the stories were pretty interesting. So I'll tell the audience, well, what if I would give everyone here today $1 million and there was just one string attached? How many would take it? And all of the hands would go up. And then I would say, okay, here's the string that's attached. If you take this $1 million, there's no tomorrow. You get the $1 million today, but you won't wake up in the morning. Then I say, how many would take that? No hands went up. Zero. Nobody wanted the deal. And then I'll say, well, now when you wake up in the morning, are you going to be grateful for the day that you spent $1 million for yesterday? So that's something to think about.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And in the process of just your day to day, for example, the people that you talk with, for example, um, you don't know where that path is going to go. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, Dennis, let's say you're looking for a home. Whether you're going to buy it or rent it doesn't matter. You're looking for a home. The more people you talk to, the more you increase your odds of finding that home.
That's true.
And that was actually impressed upon me just recently because the lead that I was given was actually clear as to what they had available. And I thought, well, maybe I should call them and so forth. And then a message came in again from the same person saying, hey, have you called so and so? If not, you don't know where to lead it. I mean, maybe the one thing that she is offering you isn't what you want or need, but she may have something else. So check it out. And I did. And it's there's also another quote. It's like playing the numbers. All right. It's like knocking on doors, like, what you were talking about with one of the stories, knocking on doors.
Right.
How many doors did you knock on today? And if you knocked on 10, yeah, your odds, maybe you'll get one, maybe two. Knock on 20, 30, 40, 100. I mean, the more doors you knock on, you just never know. You just never know who's going to respond in the affirmative saying, hey, talk to me, call me back and talk to me more about that.
Right.
I'm intrigued. And it may not lead to anything. And at the same time, it might lead to something great. Well, what's going to lead to something great is our continuation of the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Story with Dennis Henson. Inspiration. That's right, the stories with Dennis Henson here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan along with Dennis Henson. And Dennis, would you care to elaborate on what I was just talking about there a moment ago about not missing opportunities? I guess is a better way to put it.
Well, one of the things when I would have a new real estate student is I would have them make a goal and then I would break that down into parts. And one of the parts was how many homes they're going to look at, how many offers they're going to make, how many money lenders are they going to talk to, and then I held them accountable. So when they came back the next week, I'd say, okay, how many homes did you look at? And if they planned to see 20 and they only saw 5, I would give them a pretty hard time. And, you know, in order to find a deal or make a sell or do anything positive, you have to ask somebody. You know, you have to have communication. You have to have your network growing. So one of the keys to success is to find what your numbers are in your business and then hold yourself or have someone hold you accountable to doing that every single day. How many calls did you make? How many people did you see? How many appointments did you have? How many doors did you knock on? It depends on what you're doing. You know, whatever it is, you can find a number to break down. You can find something that moves you forward. One of the things that moves you forward every day is reading something positive. So that can be one of the things. And if you do 5 or 6 other things on a daily basis, it's going to change your luck for sure. And it's not going to be luck. It's going to be the law of averages that are going to kick in, and you're just going to do better.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of what I think about. It's like if you were to go to Vegas to gamble, I would say don't do that. And the reason is because it is set up for the house to win.
That's right.
Now,
You
that
can't.
doesn't mean you can't win, but most people don't walk away when they've won. They want to keep going.
That's right.
Okay. Now,
Keep
if
going
it's
till they lose.
yeah,
Yeah.
as if or if okay, some people have what they call discretionary income. It's like I could win or lose, I could lose it all or not lose it all. It doesn't matter to me because it's just extra stuff. A lot of us don't have that. But at the same time, there are times when we will make decisions, sometimes of a monetary nature, that don't pan out. I will tell you that my wife and I, my present wife and I, we bought a timeshare. We bought a timeshare years ago. And we had paid out around, I think, 7 grand over the course of the number of years. But we just got tired of the annual maintenance fee that just was ridiculous. So we finally said, no, we're not doing this anymore. How do we get out of this? And there's a way, a quit claim deed. And we signed it and said, bye bye. Now we got nothing out of it, but let's just say, there went 7 grand. And and the list goes on of the things that we put money into. In this case, we're talking about money, and nothing comes of it, but that money's already gone. There are no guarantees in that regard. And if we had better foresight, I wish foresight was 2020. You know, we could look ahead and say, nope, we're not doing that. And yeah, we're doing that. So I look at it from the standpoint that $250,000 that I've earned over the course of 55 years, I've probably, and I'll put it in this context, wasted, thrown away, maybe 50 or $75,000 over the course of my lifetime. And it's like, okay, but you're still here. It was in small increments, so it didn't hurt, not bad. And you're wiser, you know better, and you'll make smarter decisions. And I think that's real important. And these stories just continue to show us the education that these individuals, whether it be Sylvester Stallone in the first story or Zig Ziglar in a subsequent story and so forth, or even Walt Disney, yeah, they lost, but they picked themselves up and they said, okay, I need to start again. What do I need to do now to move forward to accomplish my goal? And I think that that's a real important message that we're talking about here on the program, Dennis. I really do.
I agree.
That resilience. Hey, we are going to wrap things up here in just a moment as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story, the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series. I'm Richard Dugan here with Dennis Henson, and I'm going to allow you, Dennis, for the next couple of minutes just to share with us and summarize what we've listened to as far as the story of the dreamer, Walt Disney, but also some of the other things that we've shared and something that I know you'd want to share with our listeners as well.
Well, thank you, Richard. I think the story to this point especially exemplifies Disney's willingness to fail and start over, fail and start over. And as we uncover more of the story, you'll see that his failures get bigger, and the way what it takes to start over gets harder, but he still continues to do it, which is why everybody knows the name Disney today. He could have quit at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And before we leave, I want to re-challenge everyone to go to the website, realimpactbook.com, read or listen to The Mystery of the Lamp, also The Magic Formula. That's brand new. If you haven't been there recently, that's there. Go get your free ebook, scroll to the bottom, click on the last link, get your free ebook. Click the link if you want to know about my newest books. I have some really exciting ones coming out. And look for The Missing Lamp and see if you can win a free audio book. There's videos on that website and audios. It's a fun website. We're adding to it all the time, and I think you'll enjoy going and visiting. I hope you'll think of someone that the book will help. Maybe you'll buy the right now, I think you can buy 5 books for the price of 3. So that then you have all your Christmas gifts, or all your gifts for a wedding or something. But every month we have a different special. So take advantage of that. Purchase a book, give it to a niece or a nephew or a grandson or just someone who's struggling with a business. If someone needs a lift, this book will give them a lift.
Absolutely. Well, we encourage folks to go to realimpactbook.com and check out all of those links on the page there and follow them through. And you're going to be, I mean, it's like opening a treasure chest, folks. It really is. So go get yours. It's there and available to you. Dennis, once again, I thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing here. I'm glad we started this a little less than a year ago, starting to put these together and make them available. And I've learned an awful lot, and I'm looking forward to learning more from Walt Disney, the dreamer.
Right. Next time, everybody join us.
Please. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m. And then, we are on Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., especially Wednesday at 8 a.m., where this particular series is heard Wednesdays at 8 o'clock following the news. And on all of those times, we stream live at richarddugan.com. Podcasts are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify. I'm sorry, folks. Amazon Music, and we're also on YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope you'll subscribe and click notification. We also have a book called Choices, 5 Steps for Life. You know, it's rather ironic that though they're slightly different shades, Dennis, they're both red. Both of our books, their covers are red. But yours has a wonderful hue to it. I love the color of your book. But folks can get a copy of my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life, by going to Amazon, typing that in. As well as if you'd like to leave us a tip, we have a PayPal account that's there for your security as well as ours. And on the homepage of richarddugan.com, there's a link to both the Amazon link to the book Choices, as well as to PayPal, where you can leave us a tip, and we greatly appreciate that. And we also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, so that you listen to that still small voice, get that guidance and so forth. And I would also highly recommend, even in those times that you can, pause in your day, whether it's 10 seconds to read a quote, 30 seconds to read a poem, maybe an hour or half hour to read a short story, whatever time you can set aside every day, and it will become a habit. Please get a copy of Real Impact Daily Inspiration. And with all of that being said, we wrap up by saying, thank you so much for listening to Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for letting me be in your life. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.